try to I always try to tell people, even if you're not pregnant, you know somebody who is, and you should just come learn anyway and help somebody. But I'm glad to see definitely moms with babies in their bellies and doulas here. So glad that you guys are all here. All right, well, here, I'll stop screen sharing. The way that we'll do this, I feel like every single week with these Monday wellness calls, we have a different crew every week. So if this is your first time, this is how it goes. It's fast and furious. It is a lot of information that we can pack into 15, 20 minutes, but it's not overwhelming. It's just kind of like enough to like whet your palate and inspire you to maybe want to go research a little bit more. But hopefully tonight will be helpful in that Abigail and I, our game plan is just to tell you, if we could pick just 3 oils, 3 to 5 each of us, to have at your birth, this is what we would choose and why. So we're trying to make it really simple. If you've ever heard in the past, like my oils for labor classes that are like 60 minutes long, they're really a lot of information and they're great too. But I really love the overview of these Monday night calls of just 20 minutes. So it's just enough. I feel like people can like commit to like jumping on live and catching it. So Abigail is putting in the chat right now my longer classes if you are interested in that. And I think that YouTube one she just posted, it's a couple years old, but it's very relevant. There's nothing in there I would change. I actually recorded that before I even gave birth myself. But if you don't know me, my name is Haley Aliff, and I am a doula, a childbirth educator. I actually graduated from midwifery school in 2014. And now that I'm in the baby having stage myself, I'm not a practicing midwife, but I accidentally catch babies regularly. It's kind of funny how it just keeps happening to me. I brought Harvest to a birth recently and got there 20 minutes before the midwife and caught the baby barehanded with Harvest sitting next to me, which is literally like, they didn't need me.
No.
Anyone can catch your own baby, but it's just a funny story that I'm like, Harvest is literally sitting in her car seat. Like this always happens to me somehow. But
only you can add accidentally catches people's babies to their resume in life.
I'm like, I am trained for this, but I come with no equipment. So that just is funny to me.
Am I remembering that your mom was a midwife or a doula?
Yes, I come from a line of this. So this is in my blood. My mom was a lay midwife, which back in the 70s, it was like before certification existed. She did like hundreds of births just because it was in her era. It was like what she was doing with her friends. And it was a very, it was a movement because her mother was knocked out at her births and doesn't remember them. And there was kind of this movement in the 70s of like, we're taking birth back. She obviously passed down a lot of that to me, but she was never a licensed midwife. And then her younger sister, my aunt, became a licensed midwife. And I remember I've been to births with my mom since I was a baby. And so I remember seeing my aunt give birth and deliver like my nieces and nephews. So it's been in my life as long as I can remember, my very first memories. And I love it. And it's actually what brought me to Young Living, or how I found my love for Young Living. My sister introduced it to me for birth. She said, you need to read this book, Gentle Babies by Deborah Rayburn. It's A to Z, how to use oils in pregnancy and birth. And I think your clients would love it. And that is ultimately how I ever even started Young Living in my Young Living business. So we're going to get started because I always end these on time and we've got some oils to cover. So that's kind of my little intro. I do have 3 children. We adopted our first child from birth. I actually induced lactation and breastfed her. So I should do a whole class on lactation, because if I could do that before kids, anybody could do that. I've had 2 home births. And I feel like I'm just getting started, but I'm also in that crazy honeymoon phase where my baby's not mobile yet and it's all perfect and sweet. But like, ask me again in 6 months and I might be like, I need to wait a few years. And tonight I have my sweet friend, Abigail. And Abigail, go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll share our top oils.
Hi guys. My name's Abigail. I live in Denver. I have a little girl. Her name is Foster, and she is turning 2 in February. So she's like almost 2, and then I'm like 25 weeks pregnant with my second. My first birth was a home birth, and that's what I'm planning on for this next one. But I just want to say, I think that tonight's class and the resources I shared will be applicable whatever your plan is for labor and birth. Even if you are somebody who, I have a lot of friends who are like, scheduled C-section or sign me up for the epidural, whatever your personal perspective is, all of these things, like, you will still be in labor. And so all of these oils can be helpful to you or to pass along to somebody. So I just wanted to give that caveat. So yeah, I put those links in the chat box. So go ahead and save those if you haven't. We can also try to like add them to the recording of this. We're going to post the recording, right, Haley?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. She put like several links, so you can check those out in the chat. But yes, we should share them with that.
I just know people, there's such a gamut of people who are like, I just like want to know the basics. And then some of you might be like, no, I want to like feel like, you want to feel fully prepared and like you soaked all of it up for labor. And so if you are that type of person, then have a heyday with those. We texted out this and I completely forgot if you did answer. Do you still have, I know you did that like postpartum class. Is there a link?
I do. Yep. I can, I'll share that whenever you're going.
Perfect. Okay.
I know it's on my website. Yeah.
Haley hosted like a postpartum class with, I think, your sister and a friend. And I remember watching that right before I was postpartum, and I was like, this was so helpful. So that's just one more thing to watch and prepare yourself. So that's me. I can't wait to share my top 3 things. But I'm going to pass it over to Haley again, and she's going to tell you her 3 holy grail labor oils.
It is so hard to narrow down. So
I know.
I just 2 nights ago went to a birth. I was only there 25 minutes, and I only had enough time to whip out just a few oils. So in my head, I was like, what were the ones that I reached for that I felt like I had enough time, like they were important enough to use in 25 minutes. But when I show up at a birth, I have a bag, 2 full bags of oils. And so I am prepared for different scenarios and different things. And of course, I talk to people before their births, try to figure out what's your go-to for relaxation? What's your go-to for when your mind is stressed out? Like, which ones do you not love the smell of? And so I do try to cater to specific people. But in general, I'm going to tell you just my top 3. But I don't know if they really count as my top 3 because Abigail's also sharing some of my top 3. So we'll just say it's like our top 7 or 8 or whatever. The good thing too about these oils is that if you buy these for your birth, they're not just for birth. Like, you can use these for postpartum. You can use them, some of these for your children and your babies and breastfeeding. And so they're not just like, you're going to use it one time and it's going to sit. Like, these are great oils to have on hand. So my first one is clary sage. Now, clary sage is known to be a uterine tonic. It's going to, in labor, it's going to help your contractions to be rhythmic and stronger and productive. It is not super useful if you're not yet in labor. And I say this because people are scared of clary sage in pregnancy. They think it's going to put them into preterm labor. And I understand why, because it does affect the uterus. However, I say, I can't tell you how many people I have all the time, including myself, who get to their due date and they're like, all right, baby, I'm going to help you come out. It's time. You're at your due date. And they'll get a massage with clary sage, or they'll take an Epsom salt bath with clary sage, and nothing happens until it's time to have a baby, until the baby's ready to come. And so I can definitely attest that it is not going to force things when they're not ready. You would have to overdose with lots and lots of clary sage and maybe taking capsules of it to even begin to get that kind of pre-early effect. So I'm not saying to use it all throughout pregnancy. I don't. I wait until I'm fully like 37 weeks or my due date, but you don't have to be scared of it either. If you're using a blend like Sclerescence or something that has clary sage, of course, start slow and see if you have any sort of like uterine effect to it. If you're one who goes into labor early and you don't want to encourage it before that time, then don't use clary sage. But that's how I use it. So when I get to a birth and the person is in active labor or even early labor, I start rubbing it on their lower back, their pressure points. If you Google like acupressure for the uterus, there's several places: ankles, bottom of the feet, wrist, ears. It smells like birth to me. I love it. It's very earthy. But if you don't love it, or if someone doesn't love it and they want to put it in the diffuser, then add joy to it or peppermint to it or whatever other effect you're trying to go for. Okay, so clary sage helps especially speed things up. Okay. Number 2 is release. Release is very much an emotional blend. And if you know anything about birth, it is 50-50 physical and emotional, which I would say the same for really any like athletic, like I played volleyball in college. If my mind wasn't in the game, or I was distracted, or I was nervous, my physical play was terrible, right? Like the mind and the body are so synced. So in labor, my job as a doula, one of my jobs is to help the mom be calm, like in her mind, to help her release fears or release any emotional blocks that might be holding her back. I had a midwife I mentored under for years, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of shoulder dystocia, or like it's like where the shoulder tissue or something gets stuck and you have to maneuver the mom and all this stuff. Well, she had made up this term called emotional dystocia, which is basically where a mom would have some mental block going on, maybe a fear of tearing, maybe a fear of pushing, maybe a fear of, who knows? Sometimes I've even had moms be afraid of taking care of another baby. Like they have several children and they're just trying to hold on to this baby inside of their belly where it's really easy to take care of them as long as possible. But it doesn't matter if the fear is irrational or not logical. The mind and the body are synced. And so if there is a perpetual thought, the body closes up and it makes labor harder and longer. And so if I can sense that, I'll rub release. I'll have her put it in her hands and I'll say, take some deep breaths, or I'll diffuse it, or I'll put it on a cotton ball and just kind of keep it near her face if she's laying down. And I'll just ask her, is there any fear that you think is holding you back? Is there anything you feel like you want to get out and talk about? And
That's
almost
so
always
smart.
something comes out. Almost always. And usually it's tears, and sometimes it's emotional, but there's always a breakthrough, and then it speeds up after that. So again, guys, this isn't just for pregnancy. Like this is for life. Just release is a wonderful one in the bathtub. But yeah, don't be afraid when all of a sudden tears start flowing. I heard Gary Young one year at convention say, if you use release in the bathtub, your water line's going to keep rising. And he was talking about crying. Okay, my last one. Oh, wait, go ahead.
I was just going to add to that. I've had a couple of friends who tend to be more of like people pleasers, just like very aware socially of like what's going on around them, and their like blocks in labor where like, I feel like this is taking a while. My husband, like feeling like bad for their husband or bad for their midwives, which to me, I'm like, that would be my last thought. Labor. I'm
right.
Like, I am the one in labor. You can deal for however long this takes. But they went in telling me their birth story or stories. Like I had one friend specifically where like her first birth was drastically different than her second, because her first, she was literally like, so worried about like how the experience for her doula, her midwife, her husband, the doctors,
right.
And that like was a huge block for her.
Yeah. It's Andriana said release is an oil I avoid because I'm always crying. But it
I've
does
never used it.
Oh my gosh, it's really powerful. And this is something that I wouldn't just wait for birth. So like if I have a doula client, we do a prenatal together, I'm going to let her smell it beforehand, and almost always there's some sort of emotional response so they can see, and like here's the effect it's going to have on you. And we'll use it in practice positions and things like that too, just so that it's familiar. So I never whip out any of these oils for the first time ever and like, bam, like, what did you just do to me? I'm bawling, crying. It's really, really good. It's really, really powerful. Okay, my last one, and then I'll pass it to Abigail, is helichrysum. Or you could find a blend that has this in it. Trauma Life is really wonderful. That always lives in my birth bag, but I don't know if that one's always in stock. But helichrysum is one of your pricier oils, and it lasts forever, like one drop at a time. I barely use maybe 2-3 drops at a birth max. So just for instance, like a birth I went to recently, the mom had like a little bit lower on her blood work, like hemoglobin and iron. And so I knew I was going to use helichrysum on her preventatively. I was just going to put it on her lower back and the bottom of her feet when she was pushing. She ended up in the tub, so all I could get to was her back. She was like on her hands and knees. She did not bleed at all. Helichrysum has wonderful properties in it that you should go look up for yourself. Actually, I was just looking up helichrysum to see all of its like chemical properties, but one of them listed here is an anticoagulant. It's also really great for regenerating nerves, and it's wonderful for circulation. Postpartum, as soon as the baby comes out and the placenta comes out, I put a drop on their belly. And then every now and then, not every time, but just kind of depending on what the birth was like for the baby, if there's any bruising or anything, I'll put a drop on the bottom of the baby's feet, like one drop in my hand, and rub it, and then rub their little feet. And or you could use Trauma Life. So helichrysum is one that's like always lives in my birth bag. Don't always need it, but again, it's one that I just want in my like house for life and children, and kind of a first aid type of thing. So those are my ones that I will never ever go to a birth without, but also the ones you're going to mention I wouldn't want to go to a birth without either. And I know, Abigail, you're going to mention like some bonus items, but I wanted to tell you guys, at the end of my pregnancies, I always make a labor aid, and it's so delicious and so nutritious that I end up almost always drinking it before birth, making a new batch, and then also using it postpartum. And so I do that with Ningxia Red, Ningxia Nitro, Rescue Remedy, Mineral Essence, raw honey, lemon juice, and usually I'll add just some more electrolytes, whether that's coconut water or I usually add red raspberry leaf too, especially for the red raspberry leaf tea, especially for after. So that's a great thing to have. Okay, passing it to you.
Do you have do you just eyeball it, or do you do like a specific recipe?
I eyeball it now, but I do have a recipe, and I'll try to find it, and I can share it in the chat.
Okay. Mostly asking for myself, because I remember for both of your births, you posting about that on Instagram, and I was like, I need to do that. Okay. Wow. I just learned a lot from you. I'm excited to use all three of those.
I love it.
I feel like Clary Sage is known as like the labor oil. And I told Haley, I was like, can you take that one? Because I actually didn't use it in my labor.
You didn't need it. I don't think you needed it. Yours went pretty quick,
yeah.
huh?
I guess, yeah, that's true. Oh, sweet. Thank you for sending that recipe.
There you go. That's a bunch of
guys. My top oils that I use. The first one is geranium. It's the little pink label. I don't love the smell of geranium on its own, to be honest. I love adding it to like different diffuser blends. So I always have it on hand, but the smell of it alone is like pretty potent. However, this one, I don't have scientific studies to back this up for you. I just have my personal experience. I remember seeing, I think it was on Instagram, right before I went into labor with my daughter, that huffing geranium, like during contractions, can help like distract you from the pain intensity of them. And so I had this on deck for my labor. and huffed it through my contractions. And I swear to you, it like distracted me from the intensity. I don't even know how to really explain it other than that's what it did. So if you don't have geranium, get it and try it. I'm not promising you will have the same experience that I did, but it was like, it was freaky. I tell all my friends about it, like have geranium at your birth.
See, that's so cool because you're touching on the emotional part of geranium. But like when you wrote geranium physically, I was thinking of what I would use it for, but it's so good for both. Like the midwife that caught Koa uses geranium to it like basically encourage dilation, and she rubs it on the lower back for moms and active.
Oh, okay.
So a totally different way to use it, but so good.
Yeah, no, I did not apply it to my body once during labor.
Oh, wow.
It was literally like I have distinct memories laying on my side and just like taking big huffs like as the waves came. And for what it's worth, I was like 8 centimeters when my midwives got to my house, and I was chilling. Like at 7 centimeters, I was making myself a smoothie and just hanging out. So maybe it was geranium. I don't know, but it totally like I don't even it like numbed my, maybe it was just like the emotional part of it hit something in my brain that I just was like focused on that instead of the intensity of contractions. Oh yeah, Rachel, that's a good point. Rachel said, I bet having an oil to sniff would help you remember to breathe too. Yeah, literally my best advice when you are experiencing waves or contractions, I know people use different words for them, is my friend who had 4 home births was like, become a limp noodle. Like you want your contractions to be productive for you. And she's like, if you tense up, if you tighten at all, that's when they can go from feeling like intense to painful, because your body is like resisting the contraction that's supposed to be productive and like moving your baby down and opening your cervix and all of that. And so that's just a side note, but that like I envisioned myself as like a limp noodle, and probably that like huffing this as they started to get more intense was like part of that, like just to keep me breathing and whatnot and focused on breath. Okay, my second one is peppermint. Normally this label is green, but this is like the, I don't know, special edition. So it has a cute little white label on it. This helped me a ton with nausea. I threw up twice in labor, which is like super common. If you didn't know that, you just have like so much pressure going on down there and like a rush of hormones, and your temperature is like hot, cold, hot, cold. I mean, I was pretty much hot the whole time, but you're all of the things are happening. And so nausea can happen because of all that. So I threw up twice, honestly, didn't think twice about it because I was like in labor land at that point. But after the second time, I was like, Kyle, I need peppermint oil. And so I just, again, held it and huffed it, and it like pretty much instantly took that wave of nausea away for me. And at least just made it like more, like I still felt low-key nauseous, but I wasn't like, it gave my stomach the relief of throwing up while also feeling so many other sensations. And then the other amazing use for it is peppermint, when you apply it, has a very cooling effect. And so it can make you like literally cool down just from the sensation of it touching your skin. There's a lot of like, usually you don't want to apply peppermint neat to your skin unless you're wanting that sensation. And so I was so hot while giving birth, like so hot. Kyle had a bowl of ice water and towels, and he would just keep dunking them in the ice water and then putting them on my forehead and on my neck. And adding peppermint to those towels came in clutch, because not only am I getting like the cold water, but the cooling sensation of the peppermint as well. And that was so helpful. Okay, and then the last two
Could have,
are,
I have
oh,
like
sorry, go ahead.
one, or I have two other ways to use peppermint just because it's so versatile.
Oh, go for
And
it.
okay, so one is if your baby is, this is, I guess, is pregnancy and not, but if your baby's in a malposition or like breech, I've used it successfully with so many moms, just doing a rainbow of a drop of peppermint and kind of like taking your hands and doing like a rainbow on the top of the belly just encourages the baby to swim down and to put their head away from the peppermint. And I've used it successfully so many times with a baby that can move and it's not like a cord issue. It's really great for encouraging the baby head down. The other peppermint use that I find really, really helpful is if this has happened a couple times for like hospital births, where like if a mom is laboring and like doesn't use the restroom enough, she doesn't pee enough, and the baby's head starts descending down and the bladder can kind of get pinched off. It's very uncomfortable. It's like the feeling of a full bladder, but when they go to pee, they're not getting their relief. And like the thing that they do in the hospital for that is the catheter, right? And that's not comfortable you're if you're all natural. And so we just do a drop of peppermint in the toilet, and they sit on top of the toilet for like a minute or two, and it opens their urethra, and it's really amazing how it works. So versatile, from peeing
Wow.
to breech to hot to nausea. And this would probably be my huffing oil. This is like the one that I huff in labor. So
That's
there
so
you
cool
go.
about peeing. I had
Fun
no
use.
idea I could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, last ones, Valor and frankincense. These were the two oils that I diffused while I was in labor. They both are just like very instantly calming, grounding, familiar oils for me. And so I loved diffusing both of them. Valor, there's like a nickname, the courage oil, which might sound a little cheesy, but truly like anytime there's anything in my life, like if I'm going to an ultrasound and I'm nervous about it, or if I have, I don't know, anything that I feel nerves about, Valor is like my go-to oil for that. And so it just like, I don't know, it just like makes me feel calm and like myself pretty much immediately when I smell it. And so I knew I wanted to have that in my diffusers. And then same thing with frankincense. And then some bonus products that I loved during labor was Ningxia and Ningxia Zing. I never run out of either of these. Zing, I feel like most people who have ordered from Young Living know what Zing is. You're drinking it right now.
It's drinking that exact combo right now.
I legit have probably 8 boxes of Zing in my pantry right now because I do not run out of it. It's sparkling, it's fizzy, it has a little bit of caffeine in it. It's kind of like a natural energy drink, but not like drinking like a Red Bull or Monster that's going to give you like a hit and then you're going to crash, and then all clean ingredients in it as well. And it tastes so good. I'll drink it straight out of the can. But I'll often add Ningxia Red, just like the straight antioxidant juice, into it with like a splash of lime juice. And it's like the perfect afternoon pick me up for regular life, but then was also the perfect like hydration during labor as well. Again, that's a familiar thing to me. So like I get Ningxia and I'm like, great, this is going to give me a boost. And so in labor, when I needed a boost, I wanted to reach for that. And then I think, did I have anything else? Oh yeah. My last tip would be find a blend that you love in pregnancy, that kind of like name it your labor blend. And you can have, I don't even remember exactly what mine was, but I remember I had a roller, and once like labor started, I got that roller and I had been using it just mostly like at the end of my pregnancy, like third trimester. But if you're early on, use it throughout your whole pregnancy. And if you're thinking about your birth or praying for your birth or talking about your birth with your spouse or your midwife or whatever, like make that scent, like associate that scent with whatever you're envisioning your birth to be. And then as labor starts and throughout labor, apply that, diffuse that blend, because our brain is just insane with scents. It's just a thing. You have the limbic system in your brain and your emotions are connected to scents. And so the same way that you can smell something and it feels like home, or you smell something and it brings up anxiety in you, or it's a bad memory, like all of that is connected. And so if you can kind of own a labor blend that makes you go to this like happy, grounded place, it's super helpful when labor actually starts.
Absolutely. I love that so much. I was trying to find this recipe. Maybe this is it, that my friend made. And okay, here it is. It's a spray that she made where it's Breath of Life Organics. It's my friend Caitlin that I went to midwifery school, but she makes all these products with Young Living. I sent you some of her stuff, Abigail, for last time.
I used it all after birth.
She makes all sorts of things with Young Living. We can make them ourselves too, but sometimes it's just nice when someone makes it for you. But it's called the Just Breathe Spritz. And the way that we used it, I used it a lot in my little sister's birth recently, but we spray it on can you see this little rattan fan? And it's like a grass fan. And so if you're in the tub or wherever you're at, if you're in the bed and you spray it on the fan, and like you said, you were hot, it's like amazing. You're just smelling this smell in. You can make this with whatever blend you want, but hers is eucalyptus radiata, lavender, frankincense, orange, rosemary, and spearmint in distilled water. It smells like a spa. Every time I'd spray it and I'd fan it on her, the whole room would be like, oh my gosh, do it again. It's so good. And I put it on my bed now. Now I spray my pillows. Like, it's the best.
Wait,
blend.
will you say the blend one more time? I'm typing it out.
Yes. It's eucalyptus radiata, lavender, frankincense, orange. Is this too fast? Rosemary, nope. Spearmint, and then distilled water. And she doesn't say like how many drops of each, but that's what's in it. So, gosh, that was awesome. Thank you, Abigail, for showing up tonight. And I hope you guys got something good from that. Normally I spend like 2 or 3 minutes answering any questions. I haven't gotten a text from Jeremy that like SOS, so I feel like I can do that. Does anyone have a question before we sign off about an oil or anything we said? And again, when I share the recording, I'll make sure to put these links with that. If you subscribe to our text messages, I send the recording in those too. Like, we send a reminder every week for the call, and then we send a recording the next day. And I'm trying to remember what that is, what the number is. I know the code word is latest. So you'll text latest, and then I'll just put the number here in the chat, 218-985-218-8868. Yes. Hey, right now. The protocol for encouraging labor. Do you want me to mention that? Yeah, this is in my notes of my phone, called Operation Open the Cervix. And I swear
me that too.
I swear by this trick.
I love that you just have like an index in your phone of like things people might need from your wisdom.
Definitely. My notes of my phone is like, just all of my goodies are in here. But Operation Open That Cervix there's 10 things in here, but the one she's talking about, I said, at your due date, do a drop of these oils on your belly button, dilute it if you want. Lavender, clary sage, rose, jasmine, and frankincense. So that's just one drop in your belly button on your due date. just to kind of get all of that goodness flowing and going. In that order. Yep. And that's actually from Dr. Tanya whenever she was scanning me. Any other questions? The list for the drops on your belly button: lavender, clary sage, rose, jasmine, and frankincense. It's honestly like joy oil plus lavender and frankincense. Oh yeah, and I meant to link, let me do that real quick for the postpartum class. But y'all ask
out those oils.
What's that?
I just typed out what you said to send in the chat so people can have it.
Thank you. Uh-oh.
Now I'm gonna save it myself. Perfect. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming. This was so fun. It's getting me pumped to give birth again. I hope this is so helpful. If you're here and you are pregnant and preparing for labor and birth, I just want to give you love and warmth and blessings that your birth is what you want it to be. You got this. You were made for this.
Yes, amen. I love that. Sorry, and that took me a minute. I was trying to find the postpartum class, so I just linked it there. Oh, yes, perfect. I echo that. That was beautiful. All right, you guys. Have a great night. Bye.